really do. I mean, I kind of do. What's your favorite song on the record? My favorite song on the record is track number 8. Sing a little. Which song? By Brenda Lay Down. Oh, there's PJ. Thank God. Debilitating for me. Whew. Is it calling you? Oh, thank God. Oh my God. That was the
that was
worst
funny.
thing for anybody with the amount of anxiety that I do when it comes to
Oh,
social
I'm sorry.
media.
That was my
I
fault.
was
That was my fault for never using TikTok.
Well, no, and then we even called and tried to prep ourselves, and it's still, I thought I was going in there with a shit ton of confidence. Like, I've got this thing. I'm gonna
Yeah,
rock the fuck out of TikTok right now. And then I didn't even know how to fucking
was not to
talk.
be. It's a
It was not
confusing
meant to
place. It is a very
be. Yeah,
confusing place over there.
definitely. Well, hey,
Hey.
and I just wanted to come on and talk with you a bit about writing I Brendella down
Yeah.
because I don't know, it it was not I was not doing it solo, and I wanted to talk with you because it is my favorite activity to write songs with you, and to write songs with PJ is my favorite thing in the world. And um,
Me too.
yeah, so I couldn't do it without
Wow. Likewise.
you.
I remember it really well. Because I actually wasn't in my house. We were like staying in an Airbnb while our house was like getting demolished before this renovation that we've had going on. So I was in like a crappy little Airbnb, and I feel like we wrote a few songs just in that week I was there.
Yeah.
And also you were and also you were in studio recording vocals for the album. We did some. I remember listening, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, it was
So the
wild.
way PJ and I kind of work, with him being in Australia and me being in LA, you can kind of do this link where PJ can hear what's going on in the studio live from like Mike's computer, my producer that did this entire album, and who's so fucking incredible, and we had the best time making this project together. But everything that we were working on, PJ could hear in real time, like over on his end. But we also had PJ on Zoom for the recording of I Burned LA Down and a lot of the album. Um, just because I think the way PJ and I hear every song isn't performed in a way where it's an actual performance. I feel like what we want out of it is like a story being told, and that takes like a really intimate vocal for everything. And I think just getting whoever's singing it in that moment, getting them in their most comfortable place. And for me, it was recording this album, so it was me recording all of these songs, but it was just getting me into a place of like being comfortable enough to tell such intimate stories, and I feel like you would think it would be hard with you being so far away, but it actually all came out quite nice and
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's weird. Like, I think we've gotten very used to this thing. It's going to be weird going back to writing in the room together, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really strange experience. Because it is it is a slightly different rhythm when you're doing this across an ocean. But yeah, I feel like we worked out a way. Like, I don't think it's that dissimilar to how we were working um, together, but it does. Yeah, there is a. I think maybe it makes you like you have to listen everything. You have to give everything a bunch of space. You know, you can't. Um, there's not a lot of talking over each other or anything like that. You know, that happens in the room. You kind of have to let someone say their bit, and it gives you a bit more time to kind of just think about stuff. But yeah, I remember this song started. I had that guitar melody, that dun, da, da, dun, da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da, like a pre-recorded, like I'd just done a little sketch in when I was still in LA, so like a year prior to that, and I was like, oh, I've got this little guitar thing, and again, you know, we
Yeah, it
started
was
with,
it was just that melody on guitar, huh?
yeah, that's right, yeah, because
Bum,
the
bum,
guitar
bum.
basically follows the melody,
The
and we
melody.
just wrote like we do with most songs, we sort of write it in a totally linear, like first line
Yeah,
through. Start with
true.
the first line, and
That's
then
exactly
you,
what I was gonna say is we wrote it line by line. Um, like all of our songs we write, it starts with the first lyric of the song and then we figure out the chorus once we're at the chorus. And I feel like sometimes you and I will have an idea of where we want the chorus to go or whatever, but I feel like that's where we get songs that are an actual story and have like a beginning and an end, and it
mm,
travels to the end. It's not just like one topic that you're singing about the whole time. You kind of start it somewhere and you resolve it somewhere else.
yeah,
um and that's something that I find really special about our songs is that you see it move. And I feel like when we were writing this song is also where I was getting a lot of the inspiration for the music video, because you could kind of, as you write it, you kind of could see like the path being made of you destroying this city and riding through it and just wondering how you got to that place with the person you got there with.
mm. I think there's also like this song particularly. It's like we didn't know, like when you're listening to that verse. I'm pretty sure like the whole verse through, we still didn't know what the chorus of the song was going to be. And I feel like the whole metaphor of the fire and I burned LA down kind of came out of the conversation that came out of working out that first verse. And it's like you know, sometimes, yeah, when you think of it narratively like that, like beginning to end, you just it keeps everything. um you got to like pay it off, you know, you got to have a way of paying off that verse, what you've set up. And I feel like, yeah, that was the moment when we got the I burnt LA down, or it might have been the embers in the dark and feel look just like shooting stars. Might have been that line. Oh my God. But then it's like,
That's
oh, okay, I know what this song's about, you know.
Yeah. And I remember when we were writing the pre came around and we had this melody that was just like, I just said like, would I gave you, would I, if I gave you less, would you want me more? Like just fit into that melody? Like, cause I just felt like that was something that like was the feeling I felt the entire relationship. And I feel like is also like what I said in a live a couple days ago was like is such a human reaction whenever you're getting something too much from somebody for you to back off.
Mm,
And it's a terrible trait that like all of like humans just get as being human. And that's
yeah,
probably that's probably my least the hardest part of like love for me is like not knowing when to stop giving to somebody or knowing when they're not giving me enough back and really
yeah,
where to balance that with give and take. That's my favorite line in the whole song is if I
yeah. I
gave you
love that
less
line
you
too.
want me more, just because it really connected with me and everything I
Yeah,
felt in any relationship in my life, honestly.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I loved that line. And then uh, the I burned LA down thing, yeah, it kind of came like we didn't know it was gonna turn into like this powerful song like that with the galloping drums
Mm,
and like it started out as a much daintier acoustic record. You know what I mean? And then I think
Totally.
as Mike and I were producing it, we saw where it could build, and I, wanted Chris Bond to add those drums and all of that. And I don't know, it started out as such like a dainty song. I mean, because it was made out of like such distress and anger and lack of hope and too much
And
hope
it's
and one,
yeah,
you know.
it's super pretty. Like it's very melodically yeah, or at least that first the way that first the way that verse melody goes is something very pretty and delicate about it. But I love that where you guys ended up taking it was kind of, it's a bit of a banger. It sort of it goes pretty hard for like an indie country song. Goes pretty
Yeah.
hard.
And I feel like, you and I also had written uh
We wrote another
I
song that week that we
yes,
can't talk about, but
our
but it's one of my favorite songs.
yeah, we wrote that song, and then we wrote I Burned LA Down. And I feel like before we wrote I Burned LA Down, we were, I kept asking you every week, like, is this an album? Like, it doesn't fit, like, I
Yeah.
was so scared that it wasn't like that there were songs, but the songs weren't right. That maybe there were songs, but they didn't tell as cohesive of a story as I wanted it to tell, or it didn't tell the story of me that I wanted and everything that I wanted to say. And then it
Yeah.
felt like once we had her I Burned LA Down, it filled this gap of like a story that I was trying to tell, and it felt like we had everything that was there. It didn't feel like there were any gaps in the story. It didn't feel like I wasn't questioning my every move after that song, because I felt like I had written the song that was missing from the album.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. No, I remember
Someone
that. I
says
remember
blah
that
blah.
feeling.
I think I'm just ranting, but yeah. Um, Someone else says shrooms are cool, made me feel normal. Honestly, same.
Obviously.
Obviously.
My favorite line in the song is you can't make a god of somebody who's not even half of a half decent man. I love any line like that where you've got so much internal rhythm in a lyric to a song. It's like hip hop or something, It's like just feels good to say.
Yeah,
I like lyrics that feel good to
that
say
feel
out
good to
loud.
sing. Um, that that one is definitely the line in the song where you're like, wow, did we really that was the one where I was like, okay, we wrote that, and I can't believe that line is like me and PJ get to say we wrote that line. Because it's a pretty cold line,
Mm,
but it really, I mean, it's also speaking to the point of like what the other person really isn't giving you.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
It's a
Good
pretty
song.
dark record, as most of them come by me and PJ, but
Yeah.
it's
I mean
definitely
that.
one
Yeah,
of my favorites.
totally. I think the album's got a lot of. Not that we weren't talk in too much detail about that, but the album I feel like's got a lot of lightness to it as well. Like it does go very dark places for sure, but there is something hopeful about the album. And I think people will yeah get a lot of joy from it. I do.
I'm I'm also not one to usually be the one talking about all this, but I think also, had I not had hope while making the album, I literally would have had nothing else. And I
Mm,
think while we were making this album, I was even before, really sitting down and with Mike and producing and really finishing the album, you saw me go through a lot of shit, a lot of bad mental places, and I feel like and holes in depression and anxiety that I just fell into, that had I not had hope for the future and for me to get better and for me to grow, and that there was light at the end of the tunnel, like, you know, I would have had nothing at all at that point. And
Mm,
I don't know where I would have been right now. And I don't know if there would have been an album without that hope. I don't know what there would have been. I don't know if I would have been able to sit down and write songs without the hope. You know, I didn't have much at that time, but for you and
yeah.
I to just sit and write those songs. So I just think I'm so grateful for every moment that we spent on this album, because it genuinely saved my life in a lot of ways. And I really don't know what I would have done had I not spent this year just really focusing on my work, because I would have been focusing on so much worse of things and
Mm,
doing things that were so bad on me and so bad on my mental health. And doing this album really just gave me light at the end of the tunnel and gave me something to look forward to every day that I didn't have before.
yeah.
I didn't
But
feel that light inside of myself. I had no reason to
yeah.
wake up every morning. I felt like I did not have a reason, and this gave me such a major opportunity to heal, you know? And it
Yeah.
really was such a healing process for me to be able to spend this time with Mike and with you writing all these songs, you know? Um,
That's the
right.
amazing thing about music is you can pour all of that hurt and pain and anxiety into it, and you know it'll spit out something great back. You know, it gives you back all of this really amazing stuff. You know, there's nothing better you can do with pain than put it into art, and that's sort of that's what you did for a few years now, and yeah, I'm so proud of all of that. So proud of you for this body of work, and proud to have been a part of it. It's like it's amazing. It's really amazing music. You done good.
I love you, man.
Love you, dude.
You're the best. But yeah, we love writing songs, and we like writing
Yay!
them together. But yeah, that's our kind of. Are we missing anything? Somebody said no pain, no gain.
For real.
No pain, no gain. I don't. I feel like that's kind of it with I Burned Ella Down. I mean, yeah, we wrote it. I think. Also, I don't know if we touched on this. I've talked about this a bit with up north, and I remember almost everywhere north of California had been on fire
Mm,
while we were writing this song. And I feel like there was so much pain glooming over LA, and you could kind of feel it, like the sadness of all of this nature dying out and all of these places being destroyed and these homes of people and animals. And uh, I remember that feeling like I could relate to that, and also that destruction, the fire, the rage of the fire, and all of that. I kind of felt like there was something I could relate to in that, and I feel like that was a really big inspiration to I Burned LA Down, was that Caldor fire, and just
mm,
how unlucky the timing was of everything, but it just kind of inspired this song out of it. Uh-oh, I lost PJ. Uh-oh. When are you going to
oh.
visit? You there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
But yeah. Um,
Yeah, I think there's that thing of like when somebody hurts you and you know you want to hurt them back, and you want them to know how they made you feel, and so you try and blow the whole thing up, but you only end up kind of hurting
sure.
yourself
Uh,
more and isolating yourself more. It's that kind of dynamic.
yeah. But, oh, so PJ, this was something
Mm.
I was speaking about on my last live, and I think to
Oh
end
yeah.
this live, we ask you your thoughts on this.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts in me dipping bread in root beer and enjoying
Okay.
it.
Well,
And would you ever do that?
I'm gonna need root beer is not such a thing in Australia.
What
So
about like some Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper also not a huge thing, not a huge thing in Australia. Is it like ginger beer? What is it? What is root beer? What is the root they're referring to?
That's such a good question. I honestly have no clue.
Is it like sarsaparilla or something? Is that a
Guys,
thing?
what is root beer? Like, what is it made out of? It is ginger beer? No, it's sweet.
No, well, ginger beer is sweet.
It is?
Yeah. Root beer is like ginger beer. Okay, so dipping, or let me just, I can answer the ginger beer question. Dipping bread in ginger beer is super weird and disgusting. I'm happy to settle that for you guys.
Yeah, thanks for settling that.
Like you just dipping bread. Like what sort of bread? You sourdough
Well, see,
breadsticks?
I was confused what this bread was called last
Okay.
time, but it was actually called, get this, sliced bread.
Oh, I've heard of it.
If you've ever heard of it, it was called sliced bread.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I just couldn't get my finger on it.
So you
But
just dip that bread
well, okay,
straight into that sugary
not like
carbonated.
all the time, but this was more of a thing I would do in my childhood,
Okay.
in my days of youth,
Mm-hmm.
since they're far gone now. Um, back in my days of youth, I would dip bread into root beer. And someone asked me the weirdest thing I'd like to eat
Yeah,
yesterday,
yeah,
and it was that popped into my head was me
yeah.
dipping bread in root beer.
Okay. Yeah, that's gross. I'm not gonna try that, but
Okay, well, now we know. PJ's not
now we
into
know.
it.
Yeah, no,
All
that's
right, man.
banned.
Well, thanks, dude, for coming on here and hopping on and talking about Hibernelli Down.
It's a pleasure. Always happy to
Um,
talk.
y'all, check it out. I burned LA down. Out now.
Go
Um,
stream.
go stream it. PJ, I love you. Thank you.
Love you, dude. I'll talk
I'll
to you
talk to
soon.
you later.
See you now.
Later,
Bye.
y'all.